Good morning, everyone. My name is Nguyen. It's my honor to be here today to present my research titled An Investigation into ESL Learners' Self-Regulation and Autonomy in a Problem-Based Learning Environment. The presentation will be divided into four main parts. The first one is a brief introduction. Respecting the research is given. Part 2 focuses on research methodology. Part 3 is research findings, and the last part is discussion. Now, before I move to the first part, let's take a quick look at three key terms: learner autonomy, learner self-regulation, and problem-based learning. To start off, what is learner autonomy? Hollick 1981 defined learner autonomy as ability to take charge of one's own learning, and it is the most cited definition in the literature of the field. It is likewise noted that this ability is not born, but must be acquired, either by natural means or, as most often happens, by formal learning in a systematic, deliberate way. And to take charge of one's learning is to have the responsibility for all the decisions concerning all aspects of this learning. Now I'm going to talk about self-regulated learning. So as you can see on the screen, self-regulated learning could be defined as self-generated thoughts, feelings, and actions that are planned and adapted to the attainment of personal goals. Pintrick introduces four general assumptions of SRL. Okay, the first one is known as the active or constructive assumption, which refers to the learner's active participation in learning and constructing their meanings, goals, and strategies based on the information from the external environment and their background knowledge, or you can understand as the internal environment. Secondly, learners are assumed to have the potential for controlling and regulating their recognition, motivation, behavior, and some aspects of their learning environment. The third general assumption indicates that self-regulated learners compare their learning process against some type of goal, criterion, or standard to decide if any changes are needed. Finally, self-regulatory activities are believed to mediate between individual and contextual features, as well as actual achievement. Problem-based learning is a student-centered pedagogy focusing on the use of authentic but simulated problems that students with the appropriate assistance of the teachers can solve together. This approach encourages learners to actively engage in solving tasks via which new knowledge acquisition and integration happen. The significant features of problem-based learning are that students can decide what they need to know as well as how and where to find it, while teachers act as mentors, guiding the students to deeper learning. In other words, teacher regulation is quite loose, while students need to regulate more in PBL setting. Research on the effectiveness of PBL has shown that PBL assists SRL behaviors. It's stated that the students in PBL approach were more motivated compared to students in the traditional approach. Now, I'm going to talk about the rationale of my study. So over the last few years, higher education has witnessed significant changes resulting from the high speed of information flow, new global situations, and uncertainties. Notwithstanding the constraint on classroom contact time, learners need to continuously enhance their knowledge and skills. It is therefore essential that the undergraduates develop an independent, proactive approach to their studies. Regarding EFL context, various pedagogy methods has been utilized to encourage self-reliant language learners. One of the effective approaches is problem-based learning. In Vietnam, we are in a country in transition, and numerous changes have been made to enhance the quality of higher educational systems. When it comes to the sphere of EFL, the EFL English Proficiency Index of 2022 indicates that Vietnamese English proficiency has moved up 5 places from the previous year and out of the low proficiency group. That was likewise when the researchers working placed, at my working place, a language university, we witnessed a surge in the number of first-year students having IELTS 7.0 or above. Despite that, promoting EFL learner autonomy remains challenging, since a significant proportion of students get used to traditional classrooms at earlier educational stages, in which they were actually passive learners. Also, a new generations of freshmen entering our university are those who experienced a definite disruption in their formal learning due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The university has recently developed a new PBL course for first-year EFL learners, aiming at training ESL and EFL undergraduates to be more autonomous. So within the scope of this study, I just focus on the learner's motivation and learning strategies while investing the ESL learners' self-regulation and autonomy in a new PBL course. To specify, there are 2 research questions. First, how did the course affect the students' motivation orientations? And second, did the PBL course help enhance the learner's learning strategies? A combination of 2 research instruments were visual questionnaires and semi-structured interviews were employed for data collection. Okay, so as you can see on the screen here, 34 freshmen whose proficiency level is around B2 or C1 according to CEFR level would participate in the research. They are all students who study in the class that the researcher taught. In 6 months, the participants enrolled in a PBL course as a compulsory part of their learning program. And the class took place as it would normally, no other interruption. The course covered a range of text genres and social topics, which requires the students to read and listen and present their opinions in both oral and written form about different aspects of contemporary debated issues. So, and it is worth noticing that at the beginning of the course, all the freshmen taking in their study were asked to complete a questionnaire. Okay, which instruments? So as you can see on the screen here, with regard to the paired sample t-test, the quantitative analysis indicated significant differences on some subscales of the questionnaire from the beginning of the semester to the end for participants in the PBL course. Means and standard deviations of the significant differences were demonstrated in the table on the screen here. So to specify, the student scores increased from pre to post-test when it came to intrinsic goal orientation, elaboration, critical thinking, metacognitive self-regulation, and peer learning. However, a decline was observed in the scores given to time and study environment. The findings from the interviews also show the similar result. So as you can see on the screen here, on the one side, all interviewees agreed that compared to the traditional classroom environments in which they used to learn the course gave them more opportunities to actively engage in the learning process. They appreciated the fact that they were allowed to choose their learning materials and could express their opinion freely in class. Furthermore, the interviewees reported learning some skills such as summarizing, analyzing, or synthesizing information. They also understood the importance of looking at a matter from different perspectives during their group discussion and in class discussion. 2 out of 5 interviewees emphasized the role of collaboration among students, which enhanced their knowledge via information exchanges and developed their communication skills. On the other hand, 3 out of 5 interviewees claimed that the workload in this course was so heavy. Despite their interest in autonomy supportive learning environment, they still felt overwhelmed sometimes as too many options were suddenly given to them in the course. For instance, the process of selecting suitable reading or listening materials for their assignments could take much longer than estimated, as they were confused by the available options. Meanwhile, the deadlines were tight. One student who consistently gave low scores to questions items related to resource management strategies admitted that group discussion might become lengthy and inconclusive at times, especially when some group members were too dominant or passive. In some cases, they even could not do peer review or cross-check before the group performance because they are running out of time. Another interviewee claimed that in certain cases, he had to accept the materials that were neither interesting nor compatible with his English proficiency to use for the assignments, so that he didn't miss the deadlines. It's also worth noting that 2 interviewees said they hesitated to ask for support from teacher when they encountered difficulties during their assignments, since they thought they were expected to be the independent thinkers and had to find out the solutions by themselves.